Hello and welcome to the FurnaceCore tutorial for F Steadiness. F Steadiness can be used to remove or smooth all shake from a shot, or remove wobble and general unsteadiness from a camera. F Steadiness stabilizes footage without you having to provide or specify tracking points. F Steadiness uses global motion estimation, or GME, to calculate a four-corner pin, so that the camera motion within a single shot can be smoothed out over a range of frames or removed totally by providing a single locking frame. F Steadiness takes the first frame, or a specified frame, and uses this as the lock frame. This lock frame is used as the reference for the analysis. The lock frame is used as the template for all the other frames to match to. The F Steadiness node creates a matrix of images by layering each frame over the lock frame to match it. F Steadiness is good for shots where there are no tracking markers, or a shot on water where it's hard to obtain a good track to stabilize the footage. If the shot has too much movement or a lot of activity in one particular area and getting good results is proving difficult, you can change and move the reference area to an area that has none or little movement to affect the results. This can prove the best option in some shots where there's a lot of action, such as a crowd scene or objects crossing the majority of the frame. As the F Steadiness node needs continuity to generate an accurate lock frame, i.e. a common reference point that all the subsequent images share, having a lot of movement may prove difficult to get an accurate render. F Steadiness can work in two ways: smooth and lock. Smooth works by taking a range of frames, and each frame is analysed for motion, and an average of that motion is used to calculate the corner pin. We use this to keep the overall motion of the camera, but to remove or smooth out some sharp bumps and kicks. Lock takes the specified lock frame and attempts to register each individual frame to the lock frame. We use this to completely remove motion from the sequence. In lock mode, each frame in the clip must share a substantial amount of the scene with the lock frame, so you can't lock each frame in a 360-degree pattern to the first one. For more information on GME and LME, please refer back to the FurnaceCore introductory tutorial. Before we start the tutorial, you should have downloaded the relevant image sequences and scripts from the Foundry website. Once you have done this, open the Start Here script and we can begin. When you open the actual Start Here script for the F Steadiness tutorial, you should find two image sequences. One will be actually smoothing off, and the other image sequence will be using the absolute lock on. Now these are both identical sequences. Now, as you watch the actual image sequence play on the timeline viewer, you can actually see the actual camera movement occurring within the actual footage. Now in the first instance we're going to be smoothing this off, and on the other second hand we're going to be using the actual absolute to remove all of the camera movement in this shot. So if we just press stop on the timeline now and go to frame 1, and if we just select the image sequence for smooth and bring up the actual node. Now I'm going to use the actual tab function to bring up the node required, which is the F Steadiness. You can bring up the node whichever way you feel comfortable. Now once you bring up the node, you'll see it only has one input. Now this is the source input. We should make sure that this input is connected to the actual image sequence we wish to smooth or lock off. Now, once you actually attach the node, you should see on the viewer that we have the actual four-corner pin, the actual analysis widget area, and a warning banner stating that no valid keyframe analysis has been found. Please press Analyze. So now we've identified the actual on-screen tools for the actual F Steadiness node. Let's have a look at some of the parameters to get a better understanding of what this node does. The first few buttons you have over here are pretty self-explanatory. You have the analysis button, which obviously analyzes the entire sequence, the clear analysis button, which clears the current calculation and starts from scratch. We also have the analysis range. Now you can actually analyze the entire range or just a specified range. For this actual tutorial we're going to be using the entire source clip range of 1 to 92. Now by default the actual mode for steadiness is actually set to smooth. If we look at it, we can see there are 3 types of mode to actually choose from. Now this parameter controls whether the F Steadiness node is smoothing the shot while actually keeping the overall camera motion, or locking the shot to a single frame to completely remove all the camera motion. Now there are actually 3 nodes to choose from. First of all, we have the incremental lock, the absolute lock, and smooth, which is the default settings. It can be used to keep the overall motion of the camera, but to smooth off any sharp bumps and kicks. Let's select this for a default setting. So now selected smooth as our default setting, let's just press analyze on the node itself, as the warning banner clearly states no valid keyframe analysis has been found. So let's press analyze in this, and actually view the calculations. So once it's actually finished analysing, we should actually get ourselves a render of this and just view the default settings for smooth. So now that's finished analysing and we've produced ourselves a render. Let's play through the render. As you can see now, we have actually smoothed off the actual camera movement of the actual sequence. As you can see, it's quite smooth now. However, there's a little bit of shake in there which we want to remove as well. Now to fix this, we have to go back into Nuke. In the actual calculations, we are actually calculating for scale, rotation, translate, and perspective. Now as default, the actual rotation and translation are on as calculations to apply for the actual steadiness. Now, if we actually look through the entire sequence before it has been affected by the F steadiness, just play through the sequence now, we can see that there is translation in the XY coordinates. However, there is no rotation in the actual camera movement. If we go back to frame 1 and view through the actual steadiness node, we can see by adding rotation to the calculation can in some instances add stray rotation when there is no rotation in the actual film footage. So it's very important to actually look through your sequence and actually see which of these calculations you need to apply for. In this case, we need to remove rotation from the calculations. If we open up the Advanced tab, you can see we have more parameters. One of the parameters is the smoothing option. Now, this controls the range of frames to average the motion over. The default value of this is 10. Now, we can increase this to improve the smoothing of the F Steadiness node. However, the default value of 10 is more than enough. Now, we also have the auto scale function. Now, to smoother or remove camera motion, F Steadiness translates and rotates the frames in the source clip. Now, this leaves black pixels around the image. The autoscale parameter lets you fill in the black gaps at the edges by scaling the output image up. A value of 1, the default, scales the image up until there are no black pixels visible, whereas a value of 0 disables the scaling function and leaves the black edges untouched. Autoscale uses the minimum scale necessary to remove the black gaps at the edges to preserve as much detail as possible. Now, as you can see, if we adjust any of these properties, we have to actually analyze the sequence again, and the red warning banner will appear warning us of this fact. So let's analyze the sequence again without rotation and view the results of this in a render. Just go press analyze. Take its time. So as we view the render of this, we can actually see by removing the rotation from the calculations and just apply the normal smooth to this actual sequence, we have smoothed off all of the actual hicks and bumps from the original sequence. If we compare the two, we can see the difference between them. In the next F Steadiness tutorial, we will use the lock mode.